The sound of children's laughter should have been background noise, until he saw the dimples. His pulse stopped. On the white sand, beside two tiny reflections of himself, stood the woman he'd once sworn never to love again. The private island resort was supposed to be quiet this time of year. That was exactly why Ethan Cole had come. The Caribbean sun poured molten gold over the horizon, kissing the endless sweep of turquoise waves. From his balcony, Ethan could see the shore curve away into solitude. No paparazzi, no board meetings, no mergers falling through while investors whispered about whether he'd lost his edge. He ran a hand over the back of his neck, feeling the old tension there. This place was meant to be a retreat, a chance to let his mind breathe. But the quiet only made the noise in his head louder. Inside the suite, his phone buzzed again. His assistant with an update about a tech acquisition. He silenced it without reading. For years, business had been his shield. The harder he worked, the less time he had to think about her. Naomi Carter. The name was a locked door in his mind, and he kept it shut. But sometimes, like now, the ocean would catch the light just so, and he'd remember the way her skin glowed in the sun, the way her laugh carried over the water. He exhaled sharply and turned away from the balcony. He'd come here to be alone. Alone. Was safe. On the far side of the island, Naomi stood barefoot in the sand, watching two small figures race toward the foamy edge of the surf. "Noah! Naya! Not too far!" Her voice carried on the breeze, warm but firm. The twins turned, identical grins splitting their faces, before dashing back toward her. They were 7 now, restless, curious, full of questions she couldn't always answer. Questions about why they didn't have a dad, like some of the other kids at school. Naomi crouched to brush the sand off Naya's knees. "Careful, baby," she murmured. They were her whole world. She'd built a life around them, a life away from the noise, the judgment, the man who'd once promised her the stars, and then left her standing in the dark. Her gaze drifted toward the resort's far end. From here, the beach curved into privacy, bordered by jagged rocks and palm trees leaning toward the water like lazy sentinels. She'd chosen this spot because it was secluded. She liked quiet. She liked being able to watch the twins without the hum of strangers nearby. Ethan left his suite after lunch, restless. The air smelled of salt and hibiscus, warm against his skin. He walked along the beach, sunglasses shielding his eyes, hands in his pockets. He was halfway to the rocks when he saw movement ahead, a flash of bright green fabric, the sound of high, clear laughter. He slowed, curiosity tugging at him despite himself. The children were playing in the sand, their tiny hands busy shaping a lopsided fortress. A woman sat a few feet away, her hair caught in the wind, her skin rich and sunlit. Something inside him tightened. She turned her head. For a moment the years collapsed. The laughter of the ocean was the same as it had been that summer they'd fallen in love. And there she was, Naomi, looking exactly as she had the last day he saw her, except softer somehow. He stopped in his tracks. Naomi froze too, her body going still in the way prey does when sensing a predator or a ghost. The twins didn't notice. One of them, Noah, looked up, squinting into the sun. Ethan's breath caught. The boy's dimple flashed exactly where his own did when he smiled. The girl's eyes. They were his eyes. His pulse was suddenly, violently in his ears. Naomi rose slowly, brushing sand from her dress, her gaze locked on him. For a heartbeat, neither moved, neither spoke. The only sound was the tide licking the shore. Somewhere deep in Ethan's chest, something old and dangerous began to stir. If you saw someone from your past, someone you loved and lost, standing beside children who looked exactly like you, would you walk away or demand answers? Share your thoughts below. Ethan's feet moved before his mind caught up. The distance between them shrank with each step, the sand sucking at his shoes as if it wanted to slow him down. Naomi didn't move. Her hands tightened into fists at her sides, knuckles pale against her skin. When he stopped just a few feet away, the smell of the sea mingled with something else, coconut and vanilla. Her scent. It hit him like a punch to the ribs. "Naomi," he said, the name foreign and familiar at once. Her eyes flickered, 1,000 things unsaid crowding behind them. "Ethan!" For a moment the years dissolved, but then the wall between them slammed back into place. He opened his mouth to ask, no, demand, what she was doing here, but before he could speak, the twins bounded over. "Mommy, look, we found seashells!" Naya's voice was bright, bubbling over with excitement. She held up 2 pink shells, her grin wide enough to show the gap where her front tooth had been. Noah tugged on Naomi's dress. "Can we keep them?" Ethan's gaze locked on their faces. The resemblance was undeniable now. Noah's jawline, the slope of Nia's nose, the way both of them tilted their heads when curious. It was like looking into a smaller, purer mirror. His chest tightened, something fierce and disbelieving surging inside him. His voice came out rough. "They look like—" Naomi's tone cut through, sharp but low. "Don't." He stared at her, searching her face for any sign of explanation, but she was unreadable. She crouched to the twins' level, smiling softly as if nothing in the world was wrong. "Go put the shells in our bag, okay?" she told them. "Then you can collect more." The twins obeyed, scampering back to the little pile of towels and toys under a palm tree. When they were out of earshot, Ethan's voice dropped to a growl. "They're mine, aren't they?" Naomi didn't answer. Her eyes held his, calm and guarded, but he could see the storm behind them. "Naomi," his tone hardened, "you disappeared. You—" His throat worked, the words catching. "You never told me." Her lips pressed together, the smallest tremor passing through her. That was complicated. Complicated? He laughed once, bitter. "I woke up one morning and you were gone. No call, no note. And now I find you here. With them?" He jerked his head toward the twins, who were giggling over their shells. Naomi straightened, her chin lifting. "We're not doing this here." "Yes, we are." His voice dropped low again. "Because every second I stand here not knowing the truth is another second I'm losing." She glanced toward the twins. They were still occupied, but she stepped closer, her voice barely above the wind. "You think you want the truth, Ethan, but you don't. Not really." Her words landed like a dare. He wanted to push. He wanted to shake the truth out of her. But the sound of Noah's laugh carried over the sand, tugging something in his chest so hard it almost hurt. Naomi followed his gaze, her face softening for just a moment before the guard went back up. "You should go," she murmured. "Enjoy your vacation." "I'm not going anywhere," he said. They stared at each other, the waves rushing between them like the years they'd lost. That night, Ethan lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the encounter until it drove him half mad. The way Naomi had looked at him, there had been anger, yes, but also fear. And the twins. He couldn't unsee their faces, couldn't stop hearing their laughter, seeing that familiar dimple flash. If they were his, he had already lost too much time. If someone hid your children from you, believing they were protecting them, would you forgive them or would it be unforgivable? Tell me what you think. The next morning, Naomi woke early, hoping to get the twins to the far side of the beach before Ethan appeared. The sky was still streaked with soft pink, and the sand was cool under her feet. But fate, or the cruel humor of a small island, had other plans. She was crouched beside Noah, helping him adjust the straps on his goggles, when a shadow fell across the sand. "Morning," Ethan's voice said behind her. She didn't turn. "It's a public beach." "I'm aware," he said, moving into her line of vision. His sunglasses hid his eyes, but she could feel the weight of his stare. "I figured since we're both here we could talk. I told you. Not here, right? But where, Naomi? Because it's a small island. We're going to keep running into each other until you tell me the truth." She busied herself with Nia's beach bucket, ignoring him. The twins, sensing tension, wandered toward the water. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I deserve to know if they're mine." Naomi's jaw tightened. "Deserve?" She stood, brushing sand from her knees. "You think you deserve anything after what happened?" His hands flexed at his sides. "I know I made mistakes, but disappearing without a word, that's not how you handle it." Her laugh was short and humorless. "Mistakes? Ethan, you accuse me of cheating in front of your entire family. You had people following me, She cut herself off, glancing toward the twins, who were now ankle-deep in the surf. He followed her gaze, his voice softer. "If I was wrong, tell me. Tell me now." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Some things can't be undone." They stood in tense silence until the twins called out for her. Naomi turned away, wading into the water to join them. Ethan stayed where he was, staring after her, the sound of their laughter both warming and breaking something inside him. Later that day, they crossed paths again, this time in the resort cafe. Naomi was carrying a tray with sandwiches and juice boxes when Ethan walked in. Their eyes met across the room, and she looked away instantly, focusing on the twins. He joined the line behind her anyway. "Avoiding me isn't going to work." She didn't respond. "You can't keep this locked up forever," he pressed. Naomi turned then, her expression sharp. "You want to talk about locked up? About shutting people out? Because I tried to reach you, Ethan. I tried, and you slammed the door every time." His jaw clenched. "I don't remember it that way." "Of course you don't." She stepped away, guiding the twins toward a corner table. Ethan ordered a coffee he didn't want, sitting near enough to watch, but far enough to keep from making a scene. He caught fragments of their conversation, Naya asking if they could swim again, Noah showing Naomi a shell shaped like a heart. A pang of longing hit him hard. If they were his, he should have been there for all of this. The lost teeth, the bedtime stories, the scraped knees. Instead, he'd been closing deals in glass towers, thinking he'd been wronged, convincing himself she'd never loved him enough to stay. That night, Ethan walked the beach alone, the moon spilling silver across the waves. He thought about the look in Naomi's eyes earlier, the mix of defiance and pain. He wasn't ready to admit it, but the thought of losing this chance, of walking away without knowing, gnawed at him. If you were in Naomi's place holding on to years of hurt, would you finally tell him the truth or keep protecting yourself and your children? The storm rolled in without ceremony, the sky turning from bright Caribbean blue to a churning mass of steel-grey clouds in less than an hour. By midday, the resort manager was walking from cabana to cabana, advising guests to stay indoors until the tropical squall passed. The ferries to the mainland were cancelled, flights grounded. No one was leaving the island. Ethan stood in the lobby, hands in his pockets, watching the rain sheet across the glass doors. The wind howled, bending the palms like they were made of paper. He should have been irritated. Instead, he felt oddly alert, like the storm had just sealed his fate. He spotted Naomi at the front desk, the twins by her side, their eyes wide at the thunder rumbling overhead. She was speaking to the concierge about activity rooms for children, her voice calm but clipped. Nia pressed closer to Naomi's leg when another crack of thunder rattled the glass. Ethan didn't think. He just walked over. "They could use a distraction," he said. Naomi turned sharply, ready to dismiss him, but Nia spoke first. "We were going to build the biggest sandcastle ever," she said sadly, "but now the rain ruined it." Ethan crouched so he was eye level with her. "You know," he said, lowering his voice like it was a secret, "there's a way to build castles without sand." Her eyes widened. "How?" "You'll see." He glanced at Naomi. She hesitated, her eyes narrowing slightly, but when Noah tugged her hand and said, "Please, Mummy," she sighed. The four of them ended up in one of the resort's lounge areas. Plush carpets, oversized couches, and a low coffee table, perfect for the castle Ethan had in mind. He gathered cushions, coasters, even a few empty cardboard boxes from the staff. Within minutes, the twins were giggling, racing to bring him supplies while he engineered the structure. Naomi sat on the couch, arms folded, watching. "You were always good at getting people to do what you wanted," she said dryly, when he stacked two boxes at a precarious angle. He looked up at her. "And you were always good at pretending you didn't enjoy it." Her mouth twitched, like she was suppressing a smile, but she didn't answer. Noah came over, proudly placing a coaster on the top of the castle like a flag. "Look, Mommy, it's finished," Ethan raised an eyebrow. Not yet. Every castle needs a guard. He pulled a stuffed dolphin from the kids' corner and set it at the entrance. Now it's perfect. The twins laughed. Naomi shook her head, but there was warmth in her eyes she didn't try to hide this time. As the storm raged outside, the lounge filled with other stranded guests. But for Ethan, the world had narrowed to this one corner, this fragile truce. Naomi eventually joined them on the floor, helping Nia arrange seashells along the castle walls. She didn't say much to Ethan, but when their hands brushed over a box, she didn't pull away immediately. When the twins grew tired, they curled up on the couch with a blanket, still within sight, but drifting into the soft breathing of sleep. Ethan sat back, his gaze moving from their sleeping faces to Naomi's profile. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. Naomi's eyes stayed on the twins. "Because I didn't trust you." "That's it?" "That's everything," she said simply. The air between them tightened. Outside, the rain drummed on the roof like an unending heartbeat. When a gust of wind rattled the windows, Nia stirred and mumbled, "Daddy," in her sleep. Ethan's breath caught. He looked at Naomi, but she was already watching him. She said nothing. Neither did he. If you were in Ethan's place, hearing that word for the first time from a child you might have never met, what would you say? Or would you just let the moment pass? The storm cleared by the next morning, but the air stayed heavy, the clouds still hanging low over the horizon. Ethan found Naomi on the quieter side of the beach, sitting under a palm tree while the twins collected driftwood nearby. Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but her stillness told him she'd heard him approach. "Can we talk?" he asked. "You never asked before," she said, without looking at him. He crouched beside her. "I'm asking now." Naomi kept her gaze on the ocean. "What do you want to know?" He hesitated, choosing the words carefully. "Start with why you left." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she removed her sunglasses and set them in the sand. "You think I left because I didn't love you anymore," she began. "But the truth is, I left because I couldn't breathe." His brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Every day there was another headline, another photograph taken without my consent. Women coming forward claiming they'd been with you. Your family looking at me like I was some charity case you'd taken in. And then she stopped, her jaw tightening. "You accuse me of cheating." His chest tightened. "Because someone told me—" "Your assistant," she cut in. "She called you while I was at lunch with a friend from college. You didn't even ask me. You just looked at me like I was already guilty." Ethan's throat went dry. "And then I found out I was pregnant," Naomi said, her voice low. "I tried to tell you. I called, I texted, I emailed. I even went to your office once, but your assistant said you were in London and wouldn't be back for weeks." He stared at her. "I never got any of that." Her eyes met his, dark and steady. "I believe you now. But then, I thought you'd made it clear you wanted nothing to do with me." Realization hit like cold water. She must have kept it from me. Naomi's mouth curved in a humorless smile. "She told me, and I quote, that you were better off without me dragging you down with a baby you didn't want." Ethan's hands curled into fists. "I would have—" "You would have what?" Naomi's voice rose just slightly. "Believed me? Believed in me? You didn't before, and I couldn't risk raising them with a father who doubted me from the start." He swallowed hard, the truth cutting deeper than any accusation ever had. Noah's shout carried over the waves, breaking the moment. "Mommy, look, we found a crab." Naomi turned to wave at him, her face softening for them in a way Ethan had never seen her soften for him anymore. When she looked back, her voice was quieter. "That's why I left. Not to hurt you. To protect them. And maybe to protect myself." Ethan sat back in the sand, feeling the weight of every year they'd lost. "If I'd known—" She shook her head. "You didn't." But the way she said it, it wasn't an accusation. It was just fact. That night, Ethan sat alone on his balcony, staring at the ocean. The truth gnawed at him. His own ambition, his blind trust in the wrong people, had stolen nearly a decade from him, and from them. He thought about the twins' laughter, the way Nia had said "Daddy" in her sleep. He thought about Naomi, still carrying the weight of choices she shouldn't have had to make alone. He didn't just want the truth anymore. He wanted a second chance. Do you think Naomi made the right choice leaving when she felt she had no support, or should she have fought harder to be heard? The island was still recovering from the storm. Wet palm fronds littered the sand, the air thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth. Naomi sat at a patio table outside the resort cafe, sipping coffee while the twins built towers from seashells. Ethan spotted her from across the courtyard. This time she didn't look away when their eyes met. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, nodding toward the empty chair. She hesitated, then gestured for him to sit. They watched the twins in silence for a few minutes, the clinking of shells their only soundtrack. "I keep thinking about what you said," Ethan began quietly. "About not being able to breathe. I never realized how much pressure I put on you, how much the people around me made it worse, made it." Naomi traced the rim of her coffee cup with her finger. "You were so focused on protecting your image, Ethan, but you never protected me." He exhaled slowly. "I know. And I'm sorry, not just for doubting you, but for not seeing how much you were carrying alone." For the first time in days, her expression softened. "I wasn't perfect either," she admitted. "I should have fought harder to make you listen before I walked away." The air between them shifted, still heavy with history, but no longer suffocating. Later that afternoon, the twins begged to go to the shoreline now that the water had calmed. Naomi hesitated, but Ethan offered to come along, and something in his tone convinced her. They ended up ankle-deep in the surf, helping Noah and Nia collect smooth stones. Ethan bent to hand Nia one shaped like a teardrop, and she beamed. "Thanks, Mr. Ethan," she said, the title awkward but sweet. "You can just call me Ethan," he replied with a smile. "Or Daddy," Noah blurted out, his eyes wide like he'd said something he wasn't sure he was allowed to. Naomi froze. Ethan swallowed hard, his gaze flicking to her. She didn't correct the boy, didn't say a word. Instead, she bent down to examine a stone, her hand brushing Ethan's for the briefest moment. That evening, they ended up in the lounge again, the twins curled in an armchair, watching a cartoon on a tablet. Ethan and Naomi shared a small couch, the storm clouds replaced by a warm amber sunset filtering through the windows. "I miss this," he admitted. She glanced at him. "What?" "Just sitting with you. No agenda, no cameras, just us." Naomi didn't reply right away. Her gaze was fixed on the twins, but her voice was quieter when she finally spoke. "It's been a long time since I've felt safe enough to just be." His throat tightened. "I want to give that back to you, to them, if you'll let me." For a moment she didn't move. Then she reached for the blanket draped over the couch and spread it so it covered them both. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something. As the twins started to drift to sleep, Ethan leaned back, feeling the weight of Naomi's shoulder against his. The silence between them no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a bridge being rebuilt, one quiet plank at a time. If someone who hurt you deeply started showing signs they'd truly changed, would you give them another chance, or is once enough to walk away for good? The next morning started with sunlight, calm waves, and the easy rhythm of something that almost felt normal. Ethan joined Naomi and the twins for breakfast on the patio, pancakes, fresh fruit, and soft laughter between sips of coffee. For a moment, Ethan let himself believe this could last. But peace has a way of shattering without warning. It happened when Nia, mid-bite of pineapple, turned to him and asked, "Why don't you live with us if you're our daddy?" Noah chimed in, "Yeah, don't daddies live with their kids?" Naomi froze, her fork halfway to her plate. Ethan's heart twisted. "That's complicated," he began carefully, glancing at Naomi for help. But instead of softening the moment, Naomi's face closed up. "Kids, go wash your hands before the pool," she said quickly. The twins hopped down from their chairs and ran toward the suite. As soon as they were out of earshot, Ethan said, "We can't keep dodging questions like that. They deserve to know the truth." Naomi's voice was sharp. "And what is the truth, Ethan? That their father didn't believe in their mother? That he let her go without a fight?" His temper flared. "You didn't give me the chance to fight. You disappeared." "I had to disappear." She pushed her chair back. "You think I wanted to raise them alone? You think I enjoyed wondering every day if I'd made the right choice?" He stood too, his voice rising. "You hid my children from me, Naomi, for 7 years. That's not protecting them, that's punishing me." Her eyes flashed, wounded and furious. "You weren't ready to be a father then, and you're proving right now you're still not ready." The words hit him like a slap. He shook his head, stepping back. "Maybe I'm not the only one who needs to prove something." Naomi's face hardened. "Maybe you should keep your distance until you figure it out." The twins returned, chatter spilling from their mouths, oblivious to the storm that had just passed between their parents. Naomi plastered on a smile and took their hands, walking toward the pool without looking back. Ethan stayed where he was, the sound of their laughter fading under the crash of the waves. That night he didn't join them for dinner. He walked the shoreline alone, the moonlight silvering the water, his chest hollow. Every part of him ached to go to her room, to apologize, to take back every sharp word. But pride and pain kept him still, and deep down he feared she was right. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe the years apart had carved a canyon too wide to cross. If you were in Ethan's position, angry but also afraid she's right about you, would you fight harder for her and the kids or walk away before it hurts more? The next day dawned clear, but the air between Ethan and Naomi was anything but. Naomi spent the morning with the twins by the pool, sunglasses on, posture straight, smile polite whenever he passed but never lingering. It was the kind of distance that didn't need words to cut. Ethan tried to distract himself with work calls, but every conversation dissolved into background noise. His mind kept circling back to the breakfast argument, her sharp voice telling him he wasn't ready. By afternoon, he couldn't take it anymore. He bought a small leather-bound notebook from the resort gift shop and sat at the desk in his suite, staring at the blank page. "Naomi, I've spent years thinking you left because you stopped loving me. I told myself it was your fault, so I wouldn't have to face my own. But yesterday, when you said I wasn't ready to be a father, I hated you for it, and hated myself more because part of me believed you. I don't want to be that man anymore. I want to be the man who shows up for you and for them, every day, no matter what. I missed their first words, their first steps, the way they curl up when they're tired. I can't get those years back, but I can fight for every day from here forward. If you're willing, I'm here. No conditions, no blame. Just me, ready to be their father and your partner, if you'll have me. Ethan." He read it twice, then folded it and slipped it under her door before he could talk himself out of it. That night, Naomi sat on the edge of her bed after tucking the twins in, the note in her hands. She read it once quickly, then again more slowly, the words pulling at something she'd buried deep. She thought about the Ethan she'd fallen in love with, ambitious, magnetic, flawed but fiercely protective when it mattered. She thought about the man who had hurt her, yes, but also the man who was now sitting somewhere in the resort, probably wondering if she'd ever speak to him again. Her instinct screamed to stay guarded, but another part of her, the part that still remembered what it felt like to wake up in his arms, whispered that maybe he was telling the truth. The next morning, Naomi found him on the beach at sunrise, hands in his pockets watching the waves. "I got your letter," she said. He turned, his expression careful. "And?" She stepped closer. "I'm not promising anything, but I believe you're trying." His shoulders eased just slightly. "Then let me keep proving it." She nodded. "We'll see." It wasn't reconciliation, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall, and this time neither of them turned away. If you were Naomi, would you trust the letter as a real turning point, or would you think words aren't enough without proof? 3 days later, the twins were begging for a sandcastle competition. Naomi, still cautious but warming, agreed, and for the first time since their fight, she invited Ethan to join. He showed up with buckets, shovels, and a small cooler of snacks. The four of them worked side by side, building towers, carving tiny windows, and digging a moat that kept filling with seawater. Noah was the first to declare, "We're the best team ever." Ethan smiled, brushing sand off the boy's hair. "Yeah, we are." Naomi caught his gaze then, the kind of glance that said more than either of them dared to say aloud. That evening, the resort hosted a small bonfire on the beach. The twins chased glow sticks with other children, laughter spilling into the night air. Ethan and Naomi sat on a blanket near the fire, its warmth painting their faces in gold. "I've been thinking," she said quietly, "about what you wrote, about us." He waited, heart thudding. "I can't erase what happened, and I can't just hand you back the years you missed." She looked toward the twins, who were now lying in the sand making shapes with their glow sticks. "But I don't want to keep them from knowing their father, or keep myself from seeing if we can make this work." His voice was rough. "Naomi, are you sure?" She nodded slowly. "I'm saying yes, to trying again, to seeing who we are now, not who we were." The twins ran over just then, breathless. "Mommy, Daddy, look!" Naya shouted, holding up a glowing heart shape she'd made with the sticks. Ethan froze. Naomi didn't correct her. She didn't flinch. She only glanced at him and said softly, "I think you should tell them tonight." So, under the blanket of a star-salted sky, Ethan knelt in the sand, pulling the twins close. "I need to tell you something," he began. "I'm not just Ethan, I'm your dad, and I love you both more than I can explain." Noah's brow furrowed for a second, but then he grinned. "I knew it." Nia leaned into him, small arms wrapping around his neck. "I love you, Daddy." Ethan swallowed hard, holding them tighter, feeling Naomi's presence just behind him like an anchor. Later, after the twins fell asleep in their suite, Ethan and Naomi stood on the balcony, the moon high over the quiet ocean. She leaned against the railing, arms crossed, not in distance but in thought. "You've got a long way to go," she said. "I know, and I'm still scared." "I am too." A pause. Then she reached out, sliding her hand into his. "But maybe we can be scared together." His smile was small but certain. "I can live with that." They stood there in silence, the sound of the waves below them, her fingers warm in his. It wasn't the kind of ending that erased the past. It was the kind that promised a future worth fighting for. Do you think some loves are meant to come back no matter how far they've drifted, or is reconciliation only possible when both people have truly changed?